By now, I'm sure you all heard the news. Sentinels is launching a League of Legends team and will be competing in the 2026 LCS.
Welcome to the League, Sentinels, and best of luck.
This probably came as a surprise to some of you, but if you know your history, you know that Sentinels actually started out in League of Legends. Okay, well, not exactly. But the same people who are behind Sentinels used to run a team called Phoenix 1. And when I say back then, I mean back then. I'm talking almost 10 years ago, 2016. Before our Apex Legends team, before our Fortnite World Championship, before Riot even started thinking about Valorant. I'm talking back before the LCS was a franchise league. So far back, nobody in the content team was working with Rob and the crew yet. So, to get the story of Phoenix 1, I figured who better to talk to than the man himself, Rob Moore.
So, Jerry Greenberg and I, who has been my partner in this now for over 9 years, he and I both had sons who are very inspired by video games. And we really saw the way they connected with the game they loved and watching the best players in the world playing those games. And so we jumped in the summer of 2016 and decided to start to build a company. And we launched with Phoenix 1 Esports back in the summer of 2016, where we joined the LCS.
So that's a pretty wholesome story. Rob and his business partner Jerry got into esports by bonding with their sons. But that doesn't exactly answer the question of how Phoenix 1 came to be.
The team we acquired had a bit of a rough history. Eric Ma, who continues to work with me to this day, is our chief operating officer. Riot Games had required the prior owners to sell their team, and Eric had found the owner, bought it from him, and brought it to sell it to us. And I said to him, can you put a roster together that won't get relegated? And he came back the next day with a roster and a budget. So we were bringing this team back from the ashes, and so that's how we were inspired to call the team Phoenix 1. So that original roster was Mash and Gate in the bot lane, Pyrian, who went on to some infamy as our mid laner, Anori became our jungler, and Zig as our top laner.
It's wild to think that in those days, you could get a spot in the LCS and put together a team in just a few weeks. But the real question is just how this team would do.
So the 2016 run, as I said, we got off to a very slow start in putting the roster together. Our jungler, we had to wait for him to get his visa. And so we started out by losing, I think, the first 10 matches. Somebody will have to fact check me on that. Riot Games recently put up a little factoid that Disguised Toast was threatening that record as the most losses at the start of a season. They did not break our record. And as I always like to say, be exceptional, don't be mediocre. So if you're gonna be exceptional, so either have a great team or just have a horrible team. So that's how we started our 2016 run. And then in the middle of the season, Anori, our jungler, got his visa and the team started to come together. And then I think was match 14 or 15, TSM was, I believe, 14-0 and we were 3-11. And TSM was on a roll and looking to have a perfect split. And then we had what was one of the biggest upsets probably in the history of the LCS, as we took out TSM, stopped their undefeated split, which was their only loss in that entire split. That was the Bjergsen double lift TSM, which had a lot of LCS championships that they recorded.
So things didn't go amazing, but there were some moments of greatness. Taking down TSM in their prime, giving them their only loss of the season is a triumph in itself. But as Rob said at the start of the team, the goal was not to get relegated. So, when the 2016 season came to an end, Phoenix 1 found themselves in the do-or-die LCS Spring 2017 promotion bracket. Thankfully, Eric was true to his word, and the team managed to take down Echo Fox 3-0 to keep their spot in the 2017 LCS.
So the 2016 season, ultimately, we did have to defend our spot. And so we did end up in the relegation promotion tournament, which fortunately we won. And so we kept our spot headed into 2017, and then ultimately came away with a third place finish in the spring split of 2017.
So, with the 2017 spot secured, then came the offseason. With more time to scout talent and put together a more competitive roster, Rob, Eric, and Charlie got to work assembling the 2017 team.
So in the offseason, we then were looking to upgrade our roster and really build on the pieces we had. And so we were able to attract 2 players who had very good runs in the LCK. So, well, one key fact is Pyrion, and it's always been a question to me of our coach at the time, Charlie Lipsy, who still works for the organization. Pyrion was our mid laner, he was Korean. He went and at one point was on T1 Academy, and then at some point in his career, he replaced Faker. And I constantly said to Charlie, wait, we had the guy who could replace Faker and you couldn't figure that out? And then Meteos joined us. I think we were 4-4 or 3-3 when he joined us. We then went on a very exceptional run and then finished the season in 3rd. The second half of that year didn't go quite so well as Ryu decided he wanted to step away for a while and take a break. So we ended up in the summer of 17 back in the promotion relegation tournament, which again, fortunately, we came away with a victory.
You might be asking yourself, if Phoenix One won their 2018 relegation match, why weren't they in the 2018 LCS season? Well, for those of you who are following League, you know that 2018 was when Riot introduced franchising to the league. For all you Valorant fans, it was like the summer of 2022, when the VCT went into a franchise model.
So at the end of 2017, Riot Games started franchising League of Legends, and we're looking for partners and partnerships. We, for better or worse, found a partner, but very late. It took them a long time to make a commitment. And so in that partnership process, we were just way too late to get something together that was compelling for Riot Games. So we did not get a partnership. We sold back the spot, and then Phoenix One was closed. And then we created a new esports vehicle with a very different premise, which was, let's get into brand new games first. Let's really build our brand there and then look to expand. And so that's when Sentinels was born.
So, out of the ashes of Phoenix One came Sentinels, establishing a long history of success in titles like Fortnite, Apex Legends, and of course, Valorant. Which brings us to now. Sentinels has re-entered the LCS and is looking to carry on the tradition of success. But how will we achieve this?
I think the realistic plan is it really will take 2 years to get a competitive roster that has the ability to compete for international appearances. And so our hope is to find a coach here in the next 30 to 60 days, and then to build a roster where we're looking to say, who could be those building blocks, who could be those players that can be the foundation and the core as we move through 2026 with an eye to 2027 of, can we build a top 3 team? Can we qualify for Worlds?
Well, there you have it. The story of Phoenix One from the man himself, along with the roadmap for Sentinels to re-enter the League of Legends scene. Everyone at Sentinels wants to thank Sen City and the League of Legends community for the warm re-welcome to the scene. We all can't wait for the 2026 LCS season to start up, so we can show everyone what Sentinels can do in League of Legends.
Well, the one thing any of you know, if you've seen the Sen City Classic or you've seen me on Tarek Stream, that there's a very consistent element I bring to those conversations, and fans will always notice about me, which is, you know, as we're competing and as we are building a company and as we're building a brand, that we are always there to make sure there are opportunities for you to express your fanship. So make sure you drop by the Sentinel shop. We've got some bundles going on right now so you can celebrate us getting into the LCS. So go grab your jacket. So we have this windbreaker, the Double Lift wore today. We're throwing in some free items with different purchases. So go by shop.sentinels.gg.